Oh, nice.
You could take them all.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. It is now 6 p.m. and I'm calling to order the regular board meeting of the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education. This meeting is available in English and Spanish with a translator. Oh, is there a translator here? Yes. With a translator, please give instructions on translation services available.
Yes, good evening, everybody. The Zoom interpretation feature will be used in this meeting for English and Spanish support. All participants on this call must select their language of preference by clicking the language when the host turns on the interpretation feature. This is found in the world icon located on your feature panel. Interpretation for this meeting will be conducted simultaneously. Thank you. Buenas tardes. Se utilizará la función de interpretación de Zoom para soporte en inglés y español. Todos los participantes de esta llamada deben seleccionar su idioma de preferencia haciendo clic en el idioma correspondiente cuando el anfitrión active la función de interpretación. Dicha función se encuentra en el panel de herramientas en el icono del globo terráqueo. El modo de interpretación para esta reunión será el simultáneo. Gracias por su atención y colaboración.
Okay, thank you so much. I see that all board members are present, so we can begin. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One day. Thanks, Papa. Okay, so at this point in the agenda, I actually have not logged in yet. Is anyone logged in that they could read the living land acknowledgement? Isabel, are you logged in right now? I see your computer up. If not, we'll get there in a moment. Oh, we have a copy.
Anybody want?
Oh, Evelyn, great. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sunnyvale School District is located on the ancestral and unceded land of the Muwekwa Ohlone tribe, who have peacefully honored and cared for this land for thousands of years. We recognize that every member of the Sunnyvale community continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land. We acknowledge our responsibility to learn from the wisdom of the Ohlone people and to consider how we might work to repair injustices and to move forward together in honorable ways.
Thank you. We're on to item 2, which is the approval of the agenda. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on this item, which is solely the approval of the agenda? I see no one in the room. If you're online, please use the raise hand feature now.
No.
Okay, seeing none, board, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of tonight's agenda as listed.
And second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, we can vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and with that, the approval of the agenda has passed. We're on to item 3, public comments on closed session items. I don't see anyone in the room, so there's no cards for the item. Online, if there's any member of the public who wishes to speak on this item, please use the raise hand feature now. The topic tonight is Conference with Labor Negotiator, Government Code 54957.6 for CSEA, SEA, and SCCAMP. Okay. So, board, it is now 6:05 p.m. and we will we will convene for closed session. Afterwards, we'll take a 5-minute break after the closed session, and we hope to return no sooner than 7 p.m. So let's convene. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Jeremy. Did we end up having to back out power school or we have people yesterday? No, we're okay. Well,
Good. Wearing a green tie, good. I'm trying to anticipate St. Patrick's Day. When Monday rolls around, I'll forget.
You gotta build up.
The fact that there's no school means my children will be home and pinching me all day.
Jeremy said I'm not allowed to say that we have the day off for St. Patrick's Day, which I totally would support. Turn that way.
So I was talking to kindergartners today about not having school on St. Patrick's Day, and it means they have to really put a lot of effort into their traps early.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, they're hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm past that.
Yeah. And your kids are too.
Yes.
That's the.
I think they were past it before me.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has no, he normally does the other one right now. And then he's really. So, yeah. Good.
It's like. We have. This is like, if we go down for the summer, like, I will have this all coordinated. You don't want that. Space exploration, so this is where we'll do that.
There's a balance.
Yeah. There's one last thing. Thank you.
Put the Velcro behind it.
So I have, Tuesday night
Or coming to material version of it. We'll figure it out right when I Good luck.
Where's it?
You know, that's gotta
Yeah.
Finance, we like to have somebody also, yeah, so if we can't pick a Tuesday, Wednesday, then it'll have to be the Tuesday, I think it's probably gonna be the Monday, Tuesday, so it's up to. But yeah, I'm not trying to draw this out. No. No, this is okay. And this guy's, this individual is I am in the process of
And I saw you.
I realized that.
There's no
So when I've got it.
I think
Oh, God.
Trouble.
Love it.
That's so Michelle.
You could just skip the envelope.
The envelope.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Oops. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're on item 5, reconvening from closed session. The time is 7:03, and I'm reconvening this regular board meeting of the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education. I see that all board members are present. As a reminder to the public, there are translation services in Spanish available. Also, as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded at the direction of the board. So we are on to item 6. Maybe we could tell them that we're here. We're going to do a community recognition right now. Today we have special guests with us. We have students, teachers, administrators, and parents for a community recognition. I have a letter of commendation from the Board of Education for a program that was teacher initiated last year and supported and sponsored in equal parts by the school, the PTSA, and the Sunnyvale Education Foundation. Furthermore, this program has been inspirational and replicated, so this program has opened up opportunities for students at both middle schools. All of our younger students are headed there, so really this is creating an opportunity for all of our future students as well. So to recognize this group of people, Trustee Shen Brewster will read our letter of commendation. Thank you.
The commendation. Whereas the Sunnyvale School District's promise is that every student is known by their name, strength, and need, ready to excel in high school and beyond, and to lead a life of joy and purpose. And whereas the Sunnyvale School District's portrait of a learner states that we will develop students who act with empathy and kindness, and further states that we will develop students with skills to advocate for more inclusive communities. And whereas the portrait of a learner states we will develop students who appreciate the uniqueness of others and embrace diverse perspectives to achieve common goals. And whereas Peer Connect provides students the opportunity to experience an inclusive and nurturing environment. And whereas Peer Connect involves students in leadership positions and students lead and direct the Peer Connect program. And whereas Peer Connect provides equitable opportunities for growth, offers multiple pathways for students to develop the skills to express their voice, and ensures that their voice and choice is reflected in decisions that affect them. And whereas Peer Connect strengthens ownership of learning by engaging each student in goal setting and monitoring of their non-academic goals in age and developmentally appropriate ways. And whereas Peer Connect strengthens the home-school connection by providing opportunities and resources aligned to each student's needs and interests, and facilitates authentic and meaningful parent participation. And whereas Peer Connect began at Sunnyvale Middle School and has demonstrated its replicability by inspiring a similar program at Columbia Middle School. And whereas Peer Connect provides an opportunity for cross-collaboration in the above noted areas for teachers, students, and families at both Sunnyvale Middle School and Columbia Middle School. Now therefore be it resolved that the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education hereby honors and commends Peer Connect founding teacher, Mr. Robert Kenneth Bernstead, founding principal, Mr. Vince Iwasaki, founding parents, Ms. Judy Maida, Ms. Mona Palasami and Ms. Susan Salop, and student leaders, President Xander Chang, President Peter Zoe, and President AJ Bhopal. Witness our signatures this 13th day of March, 2025 in Sunnyvale, California, state of California.
So, yeah, we're gonna do it. So now it is before we make any comments from the board, for all agenda items, we take public comments. So if there's any member of the public who would like to speak on this item, I welcome a blue card now. If you're not in person and you'd like to speak on this item, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom now. So I have two speaker cards in the room, Guido Galakota and Michelle Eugenie, and it looks like we have one online. So I'd like to call to the podium Gita Galakota first, and you'll have 3 minutes for a public comment on this agenda item. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Gallagher, Dr. Dean, Linda Van Morik, and respected Board of Trustees for this opportunity.
Two things. Number one, we'll get the microphone on, and I think we need a timer on the. Okay. Oh, it's just not showing.
Is it on? No? Okay.
Perfect.
All right. I want to thank you all for this opportunity to speak on this agenda item. First of all, I want to say that, all of us have kids and, we are all used to getting a birthday invite or an invite for a play date, or when the kid goes to school after a long vacation, they are treated with a high five and a big hug from their friends and all these things. And, sometimes kids get invited to a group activity outside of the school and other kids are taking a class, they're saying, hey, why don't you come and join? Never does it occur to many parents or families that there are kids for whom this is not an occurrence in their life. Imagine a life where outside of your own family, you don't have anyone outside that craves for your company or recognizes you as a person, calling your name in the playground. This is the truth for many kids out there. Two parts of our district promise come to my mind. Every student is known by their name and to lead a life, and the second part is to lead a life of joy. Leave alone the purpose. Lead a life of joy. It's a small joy to have a friend. Everybody deserves that. And this particular program, allows kids to connect on a mutual interest. They don't need to talk. They can find a common interest and connect and have that friend for that time, giving them the joy that they need. And I really commend the principal, Mr. Gonset, and my friend, my beloved friend, Susan Salop. And I've known Judy, but haven't personally met her, but coming up with this program and making this feasible for many kids, it's a big deal. I just want to end by saying that a true friend may be someone who accepts you unconditionally, helps you grow, supports you in tough times, and increases your ability to love yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Michelle Eugenie, come on up.
Michelle Eugenie, President of the Sunnyvale Education Foundation, clarifying for a moment. I'm also requesting time at public comment, general, on the same card. I want to say how proud I am on behalf of Seth to have been able to support this program from its infancy with financial contributions and logistical or institutional support. But I especially want to point out that it's such a beautiful example. The why should be obvious to all of us, and Gita just expressed it so beautifully. Students are at the center of all that we do, and that's why we're all here. And every student deserves just absolutely the world, the best. And not all days are sunny, but find as many as you can and create sunshine where you can. And this is such a wonderful example of collaboration, of creative problem solving. of identifying a need and an opportunity and a challenge where all of that was brought together and met and satisfied to some extent. It's never enough. We can always be doing more, which is partly why tonight, or tomorrow rather, one of the checks I'm delivering is to the Columbia Middle School PTSA as another infusion of funds for Peer Connect and its expansion to Columbia. So we gotta continue our support. I'm proud of all the work that everybody here has done and the rest of the community that's coming together at both of our middle schools. What a fabulous example. How often do you hear about amazing things happen in middle school that is student-centered? This is one of them. We should all be very proud. Well done.
Thank you. And online, we have one comment from the public.
Miss Eileen Lay.
Okay. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
Councilmember Lay, nice to hear from you.
Thank you. This is Eileen Lay, Sunnyvale City Council, speaking on my own behalf. I don't actually have anything eloquent to say. I'm just so happy to Peer Connect being recognized. I think it's such a fantastic program for the students that served, and I just think it just really makes me happy to see this program recognized. I want to thank all the wonderful volunteers, Susan, and everyone else who's been working on this so hard. This is honestly one of my favorite programs that the district does. Not that I have favorites, but this is definitely one of my favorites. Thank you so much for the recognition. I think it's well-deserved. Congratulations, guys.
Thanks, Youth Council. So now I'd like to invite Mr. Burnsett up, if you'd like to say a few words or introduce your students
I would
to
be honored
accept the
to
award.
introduce them.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ken Burnsett. Thank you so much.
Do you mind going to the podium so that you're answering?
I don't need a microphone, you guys are better.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the recognition, these students, this program. It doesn't always meet every aim that we set out to, but we create the atmosphere for it to be organic, not to be manipulated, because I feel that is the lasting relationship. So first I want to recognize Xander Chang. He was the inaugural president, and he's at Homestead now.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the Board of Education for acknowledging this club as a place where kids with learning disabilities can connect with students of the general population. As someone with a visual impairment that may not be as obvious to the public, I think Peer Connect is a great place for me to live without the judgment which does come in a middle school culture. But I think this opportunity is great for the kids with learning disabilities and their peers to help gain a better understanding of one another and to provide a learning experience outside the classroom. But once again, I want to thank the Board of Education for inviting me to speak, and for I also want to shout out Mr. Burnsett for creating such a wonderful club and all the other adults who helped out. And I hope that their practices continue and that we can continue to aim for everyone's better future. Thank you for your time.
Co-presidents for this year, Peter Zales. Oh, sorry, that's you, Peter.
Nice. So Peer Connect is a club where you can make friends and play board games. Peer Connect is a club, it's a really chill club which you can like come once and never come again. You can also come every single time if you want to. Peer Connect provides 2 free field trips every single school year and free pizza every few weeks. The most important thing is Peer Connect is a good opportunity for you to meet new peers and connect with them, hence why it's called Peer Connect. And so yeah, that is Peer Connect, and I like Peer Connect because like in middle school you have those awkward moments where you think like nobody cares about you. But once you're in Peer Connect, you can talk with your friends, make friends, talk with your peers, play board games, card games, and do stuff that you enjoy. So yeah, that is Peer Connect. Peer Connect.
And co-president AJ Vogel.
I would first say good evening, everyone. And the reason I like Peer Connect is because when I first came into SMS, I came late, so I couldn't make any friends. And Mr. Burns introduced me to Peer Connect, and I got to make 2 friends that are like my best friend now. And when he told me that there's 2 field trips and pizza, I was like, it made me like want to go back more. And it's another thing is that it welcomes everyone, and because it welcomes everyone, we can make friends with some like disabilities person, and yeah, that's what I like about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Mona? Get up there. Hey, she is in the trenches. Ms. Mona comes every Wednesday.
Oh, thank you.
And nothing's too big or too small for her to handle. Thank you, Ms. Mona.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for, recognizing such a wonderful program. Last year, Susan started it. I was helping along with her. The other day I was talking to Michelle that we are not getting a lot of kid connection there, like last year. But I can see the kids, the kids from, generally they are starting to come, and Mr. Bui helped me to pitch in with the leadership team, and we went and talked. Now we have a little bit more kids coming in. But the main thing I saw in the Peer Connect is the kids, the special ed kids especially, they always look forward to every Wednesday. Whenever they see me in the SMS, they will say, oh, I'm going to come on Thursday. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to come on Wednesday. They're super excited, and I can see their involvement with the kids. That's really, it's really heartwarming for me. I really, it gives me so much pleasure to come, see them, help them. I'm hoping, like Mr. Burns said, it's going to be more organic. That's what we want. Like kids, kids both from general ed comes and, get connected with the other peers, so that way they can, make more friends. And I heard Columbia is doing wonderful. Hopefully, we will next year too. Our program will be much more popular among kids, and kids can make more meaningful connection, not just at the school and taking them outside of the school. How she was still saying that some of the kids can't even get invited to parties. I'm hoping this will become a bridge, so that way all kids get to invite, all kids get to be going to parties where they are supposed to be, right? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody, I just have a few. You guys have such great speeches. But yeah, I think most of you. My name is Susan Salop, and I was one of the parents who helped start this club last year. And it's just been a really great collaboration between the teachers, the administration, the students, and the parents. Through Sunnyvale Education Foundation and the Sunnyvale Middle School PTSA has been super supportive as well, with volunteers and funding. And my son Daniel participated in this program last year, and he really enjoyed it. And it was just great to see him interact with kids who he just normally wouldn't interact with, like in his daily life. He really enjoyed it. And, just simple things like everyone's been saying, playing games, eating lunch, going on field trips. And we're really excited to see this program expand to Columbia Middle School. It's called Friends. We hope to expand to the elementary schools as well. And I really think these kind of experiences, there's ups and downs, of course, just like life, but these kind of experiences are going to have lasting positive impacts on the students and everyone involved in the program. So just thanks everyone for this recognition tonight, and for everyone who helped make this club successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry guys, I know it's getting late. One last indulgence. I forgot to publicly thank SEF. Thank you so much for your kind endorsements. and Mr. Iwasaki too, because he's been a champion of this since I came to him to get the kickoff. Thank you again.
I'm super grateful we have this program. Where would you like to say anything before? We'd really like to take a little picture and present them with their certificates, or Isabel?
Well, I am in awe of everything that you have done. I heard about it and I think Susan got us to visit it before. And it's a great program and I'm very, very happy that our kids are responding to it. And I hope to see more examples like this. It's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yay, okay. Well, let's take a picture. So we'd like to take a picture with the board or with your certificates, and we have everything here. And then afterwards we have some cookies. Okay. Smart cabinet, welcome to be in the photo.
Oh, yeah.
We're all here.
In front, sorry. Talls in the back, smalls in the front. You're tall now. Last year you weren't.
Yes.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, that's totally
Okay.
Oh, look at the paparazzi.
Yeah.
We might need three rows. Do we need 3 rows? We need 3 rows?
You and us too. Okay, do you want everyone to look over to Leah now, so
Yeah.
far right, far right.
See everybody, yes, okay, ready, 1, 2, 3. One more with flash. 1, 2, 3. We'll do one more. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you. Did you want?
You can stay right there. I'm up there to get your picture.
Please enjoy some cookies.
Yeah.
Oh, I think this was mine. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
We're watching together. I know.
No.
I know.
I got a section of A's and a section of yeah, it's a great teaching class. I didn't really know that. He's not I really like, sometimes when he tells a story, I'm like, it's raw, you know? He's definitely, he's been a good teacher. You're gonna have to 11 grade lessons. Well, I miss you. Stop by Hey, Tony. Thank you so much for bringing them. I appreciate that. Hey, Winnie, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah. Hey, Xander, do you ever go to the one there, different to the Monas, or?
Yeah.
You did, how does that work?
It's good.
Is it kind of similar to ours, where
Yeah,
just
yeah,
people
yeah.
come, drop
Yeah.
in, sort
Yeah.
of?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good.
I like
Bye. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again.
You need a peer connect for the parents.
Just you? Yeah, sure.
I love the suit, Sarah.
Oh, you started to not do it. I said, oh, okay. You want to open it? Or face it? Yeah. Can There we go.
Your speech was great, by the way. I really like your speech. You did great.
Yes. Small, big, and show me cheap.
Very open. Very welcome.
Thanks for recognizing. Hey.
Welcome back, everyone. It is 7:30. We are going to move on to item number 7, which is comments from the board and the superintendent. We can go ahead. Are you ready, or do you want us to start? Is Alan back with you? Sure.
Well, this week we had the legislative brunch on Saturday. I think everybody on the board went. It was very interesting, learned a lot, and inspired us, I think, a little bit, make us more active. Then we also have our legislation action committee this week, and we have quite a few meetings. We've been meeting also for the Hoffman's party. I hope that the board goes and everybody goes to the Hoffman Award ceremony.
You're gonna miss it. It's Jacob's volleyball senior night. I just learned that like 2 days ago. Yeah, I'm so sad.
Yeah, we were just we try out the things that the kids were gonna cook for us. And we're gonna see later the programs, but the kids from the culinary programs normally cook the
Yeah,
dinners,
I
so
love,
it's gonna be-
yeah, now that Metro Ed is like my favorite thing. Yeah.
So yeah, just regular 2 weeks, all the committees, all the things and boards meeting and giving us work to do.
Thank you. Michelle?
I was just gonna comment on the legislative brunch, but as much as I'll just say, Bridget was a big piece of it, and so thank you for all your efforts. It was a really great event.
Thank you. and thank you. Go ahead, Peggy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the legislative branch as well. It's my first one. Richard, I heard that you were the manager of all the people coming at just the right time, and that was really, really remarkable. It was so well run and very informative, and it was great to kind of have the ear and to hear the voices from all the legislators and our representatives. And the other thing I wanted to comment on is I went to the CMS play that went wrong, I believe is what it's called. It was hilarious. It was really, really great, and I was just so joyful for the students. It was kind of like a play, like a comedy of errors type of thing, and it was very situational comedy, and they had so much fun with it, and that was really wonderful to see. And I'll be sending in my other activities.
Thank you. Evelyn?
Ditto what everyone else said about the legislative branch. I was able to attend my first one, and it was exciting because I got to meet different people from different districts, and everyone was very supportive there, so it was very nice. Yes, thank you to Bridget because she played a big role putting it all together. Let's see here, I also went to San Miguel's walkathon, and that was nice. I got to meet different people that was introduced to me, like a parent from the city council, school site council, and the PTSA president. Everyone was very nice and warm and welcoming, and I was excited to be there. And let's see here. I'm also helping with our walkathon at Fairwood and then our family dance, but we are canceling our dance for tomorrow because of the weather. But that will come next week. So that'll still be fun. The fun part was when I went to volunteer for my daughter's Girl Scouts. They were helping at the garden, so I had already taken a shower and I went, and they were all pulling weeds and stuff, and they were all like, "Ooh, I don't want to wear this, the garden gloves." And so I thought, oh, I don't either. But so I just used my bare hands. I used my bare hands and I helped them, and I was sweating under the sun because it was sunny, but that was fun.
That sounds great. Okay, so I'm gonna send my other activities in. You're reminding me of legislative branch, and it was like just a few days ago. It seems like a really long time ago right now. That just like for the public or those of you who don't know, legislative branch is run by the Santa Clara County School Boards Association, and it's a wonderfully helpful organization for elected officials, for board members. It's a great resource. And that branch I think we had about a dozen legislators, including like the head of the subcommittee on the education budget, John Laird. We had Dave Cortese was there, a bunch of senators, assembly members, and the chair of the education committee, Albert Suchi from Southern California, even zoomed in for us. And we had the president of the California State Board of Education was opening for us. So we just had a lot of people who were giving us perspective on, this very interesting time with changes and things happening at the federal level, what's happening on the ground here in Santa Clara County, and how we can all work together for kids and de-silo things. So it's just a great conversation. And then I slept for like 2 days straight after that. I was like, okay. So that was the biggest event of my week. I'll send my other things in. That's all I have. Thanks. One quick shout out. It is Women's History Month. So we should all spend the month thinking of wonderful contributions of women. We have a 5-member women board and women on our cabinet, for all many teachers and allies. And so I just, I hope we can all celebrate one another. Thank you.
So just 2 topics. The first is the search process for the new superintendent has begun. Next week, there will be community forums available to the public. Information about those can be found at the district website if you go to SESD.org. There's a banner, click on the banner, it'll take you to the page with all of the information. There's a couple of community forums, one in Spanish, one in English, and then also opportunities to participate in an anonymous online survey, and they really want to hear, they as the board, and the search consultants want to hear from everyone, just as broadly as possible. So we encourage everyone to either attend the forums or participate in the survey, or both. And then the other topic I have is, it is exactly 5 years ago to the day that the Public Health Department ordered schools in Santa Clara County closed. And that began a really difficult period of time. And when I think about that period of time, one of the things I'm most proud of being superintendent is we set a goal of emerging from the pandemic stronger than we entered into it. And I feel confident that we did. I will always be proud of our community for the way we responded to those times, to our teachers and staff, the way they supported students, the way they matched the needs of our community. If I can editorialize a little bit, I felt like, and no fault of anyone's, because I wouldn't want to be the county health department or anything like that, but all the conditions were being set to make it difficult to return to school. At the very beginning in the fall, when we all wanted to return, the message was you can return if you sign a safety waiver. And so, like, who would do that? That was the message that was being given to staff and families. Later, they came up with this color system, if you'll remember that. That, like, oh, if we can get out, we've been doing this all week. And like, we were getting ready to come out of it, and then they invented a new color, deep purple. Do you remember that? And all of these things were communicating how difficult it would be for people to return to school. And yet we persevered, we pulled together. Again, our families supported our teachers supported our family, our staff supported each other. And I couldn't be more proud of the way we emerged from it. We still have more work to do. We really are just building on our excellence in teaching and learning, and our joint commitment now encapsulated in our strategic plan to improve teaching and learning and improve outcomes for all kids. And that's kind of a positive byproduct of all that. So anyway, I didn't mean to take you down a negative memory lane, but like, that's 5 years ago, and think of how far we've come, and I'm proud of where we've come.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And now we are on to item 8, comments from the Sunnyvale Education Association. If there's an official representative online, please use the raised hand feature if you wish to speak now. Nope, okay, seeing none. Item 9, comments from the California School Employees Association. If there's an official representative online, please use the raised hand feature. Moving along, item 10, comments from the public. So this is the time for the public to comment about things not on the agenda. This portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the governing board on any item of interest to the public. However, provisions of the Brown Act, Government Code 54954.2a and .3 preclude any action being taken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. Time limits allocated to public testimony are 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes for public comments. Speakers are asked to give their name and affiliation so that an accurate record is reflected in the minutes. I do have one card for item 10. If there's anyone online who would like to speak on this item, you're welcome to use the raised hand feature now. And as a reminder, per our board bylaw 9323, the board shall not prohibit public criticism of its policies, procedures, programs, services, acts, or omissions. During public comment, we encourage speakers to discuss issues with civility, to treat people whose opinions differ from their own with respect, and to focus on ideas, policies, and values. So we have one person in the room. Do we have any online? Okay, Ms. Michelle Eugenie, you may come to the podium. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you as always. I'm Michelle Eugenie, President of Sunnyvale Education Foundation, in case you forgot. And I came with a check tonight that I have given to Mr. Cuffey, and with it a cover letter just giving you an update on the giving from the Sunnyvale Education Foundation to our schools. As you may recall, we've mentioned before, this spring we have a special project grant, and it has as its lens joy and purpose through equitable enrichment and inclusion initiatives. And I'm pleased to announce that through this campaign, SEF has written checks to schools and parent groups for a total of $15,000 to support the programs that are at Bishop, Columbia, San Miguel, and Vargas. And these were requests that span everything from cheer program equipment to scholarships for a multi-week art class that is centered on mental health and trauma healing, book bag lending systems, after-school chess club scholarships. Our Danza Folklorico programs continue to expand in our schools across the district. That's a really popular but costly option. And so some of these startup funds can be really important for helping them to succeed and reach more students. And additionally, we're going to be providing each school with a rainbow parachute or similar on an opt-in basis to support joy and purpose, because even middle schoolers can have fun with a rainbow parachute. And with this contribution, just to remind you, if you're adding it in your mind, SEF has contributed $127,000 this school year to support student enrichment at all 10 schools in our district. And the previous funds have already been made and on deposit. And of course, we have a wide variety, including the play that Peggy mentioned earlier at Columbia Middle School, which I also got to attend. And so it was really neat to see so much of our community come out and support middle school drama. We've also, of course, continued to support resources in our libraries. And we have our special acronym that we will not compare to George Lucas's creation. It stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. We call it JEDI, but that's an acronym for those things, so you understand. And that's been a really fun project. So thank you for your support. Always interested in hearing about additional needs and opportunities to show our support. And it's a great relationship. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'll give you this letter.
Thank you, Michelle.
So we're on to item 11, consent agenda items. Any item on the consent agenda is subject to review and discussion prior to being approved by the board. If necessary, any items may be removed for separate action. The public may address the board regarding any items on the consent agenda. So now, is there any member of the public present, either in person or online, who wishes to make a comment on an item from the consent, wishes to make a comment on the consent agenda, or pull an item from consent to comment on it and have a separate consideration and vote? If you're online, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing one online. Speaker, please state your name and affiliation. Or you're going to tell us the name and affiliation?
Well, there isn't a name, but it's Zoom user.
Yes, so please state your name and affiliation for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes for your public comment. Thank you.
Hi, sorry about the Zoom user. This is Ambrosia Studley, and I think this is the right time to talk. I just wanted to thank the board for considering improvement to the math pathways for the middle school, and in particular, thank the staff for hearing that there needed to be improvement. And I think what's planned is really going to be great, and I'm so excited. My son, who's now in 8th grade, and I spoke last year asking for something like this, and I just really feel like the process works, and I'm really excited for this improvement. I do think there's, yeah.
I'm sorry, this is just to pull something from consent to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Talk about math pathways.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much. Okay,
yep.
We'll hear from you soon. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move, our board, we need to decide, board, do you want to pull anything from the consent agenda, or would you like to make a motion to pass it as is?
I move approval of the consent agenda as listed.
Great, do I have a second?
I second.
Thanks. Any questions? Well, I guess no questions or comments. All those in favor? Aye. Board says aye, the motion passes. Okay, now we're on to review and action, item 12A, updated middle school math pathways. Presenting tonight is Chief Teaching and Learning Officer, Dr. Tasha Dean.
Good evening, board. I am not by myself on this topic this evening. There's been an amazing team doing this work, and so I want to call up Dr. Ballantyne as well. And Jane, are you also presenting tonight? Okay, but come on up because you've done some amazing work, and so we definitely want you present for this conversation. So we are really pleased to get to this point. This has been, I would say, a year journey, but a little bit longer than a year journey to get here. We had official math pathways in 2020. And so at the beginning of this year, as a part of our strategic plan and our planning, this was one of the initiatives that we were gonna try to pull together. It's been a great collaboration with our middle school principals and teams, and we began the work, and so that work has occurred. We have looked at this in order to be a diverse pathway that allows students being able to enter at multiple stages in our math system in a way that works best for them. Some students change gears as they enter 6th grade and decide they may want to accelerate. And so this pathway that's being presented tonight will afford our students the opportunity to be able to do that. In addition, it is supportive and rooted definitely into our strategic plan and our promise to students, ensuring that they all have an opportunity to have an education that gets them right at where they are with their strengths, their needs, and what it is they want to be able to accomplish. And so tonight we are here to present that pathway to you, and I'll call up Dr. Ballantyne to share thoughts about the pathway.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. Good evening, trustees, public, and staff members. I think Dr. Dean gave a really nice overview of where we were with math pathways. I do want to emphasize that while this new math pathway may emphasize acceleration with the new blue option, we maintain our unwavering commitment to the growth of all of our students, no matter where they are. I know we responded to some questions about what our middle schools are currently doing to increase acceleration. That is something that we continue to focus on. Do we have it completely figured out? We don't, but we keep working on it. I was just talking to Mr. Iwasaki, I think he's here. Yes, right before the board meeting around the work that we're doing this year with implementation of the new math curriculum to increase options for our students in the math courses, as well as things that we want to do next year in terms of improving intervention. So we keep working on layering and relayering what we're doing for acceleration, for intervention, to make sure that we are meeting all our strengths, seeing their needs, and meeting our promise to students. Yeah, okay. Are there questions?
So are you is there any presentation tonight, or is it just the items that you?
It is just the items in the packet.
Should we project the packet? Could you just kind of go over the diagram with
That way?
us?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to pull it up. So while we work on pulling it up, I think I'll just work to describe in pieces.
Because there is a change from, what is the update? Maybe you could, I think you said there's one new layer, and you could just sort of describe for us what's different versus before and the pathways in general.
For sure. So I think what we're really proud of in this pathway and this version is that we really work to add a pathway where students could have geometry in their 8th grade year and have it not be their elective course. I think that was a question that came up from community members that were interested in continuing to be in elective courses like band or orchestra, where they develop skills over time. So with that in mind, also with an idea that some students are ready for a more advanced path, we created this new blue pathway. I think what we're most proud about is creating the yellow or orange boxes, depending on how you see colors, in between different pathways for summer support. We really did want to create a pathway that offered opportunities for acceleration for all students that didn't require outside coursework. Really just managing, not managing, but seeing the strengths of all students. Thank you for that. So I'll start from the beginning in the lavender box, and Jane, please jump in if I miss anything. So we have an open enrollment process for all of our students in the lavender boxes, but something that we added in the lavender box, but something that we added here is a summer bridge into courses so we could increase the number of students in the Math 6-7, the green pathway, knowing that we want to increase the amount of students represented in Algebra 1. That's outlined in our strategic plan as one of our measures. So we felt that adding that summer bridge to boost students who are ready for Math, like close to being ready for Math 6-7, would help them be successful in this green pathway. What currently exists is the orange pathway. So we have Math 6 to Math 7, Math 8, and the green pathway, Math 6-7 to Math 7-8 to Algebra 1. And currently, some students choose to take Algebra 1 and Geometry simultaneously in 8th grade. So earlier when I referenced that some students, there was a request for us to have a pathway where students weren't taking Geometry as their elective. There was a desire to uncouple those last two. What's new is the blue pathway. So students placing into Math 7-8 as a 6th grader, taking Algebra 1 as a 7th grader, and taking Geometry solely as an 8th grader. Again, here, what we're proud of is adding in these yellow-orange diamonds where we create summer bridge courses to support students so that they can accelerate in multiple areas over the summer. Previously, we had one, and Jane, you'll have to give me I'll mix it up in the land of, we've done many versions of this. We had one summer bridge. In this new pathway, we have one in the lavender, 2 between Math 6, Math 7-8, 3 between Math 6-7 to Algebra 1, and 4 between Math 7 and Algebra 1. So we've increased by 3. Again, really wanting to support students who have math aptitude, and we would want to support them within our current instruction system, so we're not encouraging outside math coursework. So that's an overview of our new math pathway. What did I miss?
No, you've got everything. Okay, so now we're gonna go to public comment. I don't have any cards in the room, so if you're a member of the public and you would like to make a comment about this particular item, now is the time to use the raised hand feature online. So you'll need to give your name and affiliation. You'll have 3 minutes, and we'll take public comment up to 20 minutes. Looks like we have currently 3 people online. Ms. Wilson, who's first?
So we have Carrie Hubble, followed by Katie Rowlands, followed by Ambrosia Studley.
Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon or evening. This is Brian Hubble. I'm here on my wife's phone. She was handed it to me to talk. But so I guess what I wanted to say is there's some good things about the program that makes sense that's being proposed. But I feel like the existing students, some of them, especially 7th graders, are left out of this opportunity. And when you implement a program like this, it should start with the students are there and give them the opportunities and then implement it so the others can come. There's no pathway for a 7th grader now to enter algebra and geometry without using their elective. And so there used to be at Columbia ways to do this with 0 period or flex classes. And my son went through that and was able to take calculus as a junior and statistics. The number one predictor of college success is high school students' demonstrated ability to do calculus in all subjects. And so I guess that opportunity is important. And I feel like what I understand is that Sunnyvale didn't have the same opportunities for geometry, and now they're trying to make them equal, but it seems like a worse situation for the Columbia students than it was before, and that there should be a pathway for, especially for 7th graders, to enter algebra and geometry if they want as an 8th grader without having to use their elective. So that's my main comment.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Katie Rowland and then Ambrosia Studley.
Okay, Katie, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Rowland, and I'm a parent of a student at CMS. And I want to thank you, as others have, for the time that you spent into developing these new pathways, as well as the Zoom opportunities to hear from you all. That was very much appreciated. The website that you did, sharing the slides for everybody else. So I really appreciate that. I want to talk with you a little bit about implementation of these different advanced courses and making sure that students feel supported in those courses. So my student is currently in advanced math at CMS, and I want to tell you what that experience has been like so that hopefully next time it'll feel a little different. At the end of the first trimester, he was told, we're going to be making a list of students who shouldn't be here and giving those to the principal to be moved back down to Math 6. And I thought, well, that's not the best phrasing. Maybe my middle school student misreported. Maybe this is just a one-time thing. And then at the end of trimester 2, which we've just gone through, again, they were told, we're going to get a list of students who shouldn't be in this class. This isn't the right math class for them. Then he was asked to fill out a self-evaluation. How good at math do you think you are? How many times is my question that you're going to ask students at CMS, do you really belong in this class? Because the message that these students are receiving is, maybe you don't. We're not sure. Let us just check. Let's check one more time. We're still not sure if this is the class where you belong. This raises such anxiety and perpetuates all of these systematic inequalities that are in our district. And something that's really interesting is when this happened, I thought, well, you know, let me ask my friends at SMS. This just must be what we do at SSD. No one was ever asked that question there. Please, when you implement these pathways, when you give students your vote of confidence that you can do it, meet them that entire way through, show them your support, tell them you believe in them, they will remember how you made them feel for the rest of their career as math students, as learners, and as members of our society. They will remember someone believed in me, someone thought I could do it, and not someone didn't think I belonged. Maybe I'm not good at this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. Next up is Ambrosia Studley. Yes. Okay, welcome. You have 3 minutes on this topic of math pathways. Great.
All right.
Sorry.
Round 2. Thank you so much. Sorry about that earlier. I super appreciate these hybrid meetings, and it allows me to multitask at home with my family's busy schedule. So thank you. So I spoke last year at a board meeting with my now 8th grader about asking for math pathways that allowed specifically 8th graders to get to the point that they can do their elective of choice as well as an advanced math class. And I really appreciate these improved math pathways, which are going to allow that. We know how important the electives are for our students and carrying them through their day. I did want to just kind of touch on the culture piece. I was in a meeting and a bunch of students were very, very excited and wanted to know, like, how can I do this summer school right now? Somewhat similar to maybe Brian's comments. But separately, I want to talk about the campus culture and messaging around the math pathways. I think it's going to have to be a concerted effort that math pathways aren't a race, and that we are celebrating everyone where they should be and really discouraging parents from rushing their kids through this math pathway. My oldest child came up through Fairwood and Sunnyvale Middle and fell off that advanced math track, but it was okay. They did geometry during summer before sophomore year. That was something they wanted to do. They were intrinsically motivated to do, and they're doing honors pre-calculus as a junior and on track for calculus next year as a senior. So you don't have to do all the math all at once. And if I just ask that you focus on that specific messaging. And thank you again for this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment. Board, we need a motion because this is an item for agendized item for approval. So for the purposes of discussion, do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the math path curriculum.
Do we have a second to approve the math pathways as proposed?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks. Who would like to, do we want to start down the line? Evelyn, do you have any questions or thoughts about the math pathways? We can just work down the line and then.
I do like how there is a choice where kids can do another elective instead of doing both the geometry class. My daughter, you know, when she was at Columbia, they had what was called a flex class where she did her advanced math class at Columbia. I don't know if they do that anymore.
You could ask, do they still do a flex class, or is that still possible?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So there was 1 year where Columbia tried to have an advanced math geometry during their flex period, and they actually found that it wasn't supportive of students. Because the flex period is a shorter period, it's about 32 minutes versus 51, it was very challenging to make sure they covered and students learned the amount of content. So actually the next year, your daughter was one of the students that had the option, and we found that we could have supported students better, so we moved that out of flex.
But I do like how they can have a choice to do an elective, because a lot of times kids, you know, they're so engaged into their classes and they wanna do electives, but they can't because they're focusing on things that they want to finish too, as far as math. But then they miss out on electives, which I think is very important for kids to have, in middle school, and it just helps them to be engaged with their peers and just have stuff to do other than just, math stuff.
Isabel? Nothing? Okay, Michelle?
I have just a quick question and then my main piece. So the connected to the geometry, I think the person who spoke also talked about maybe during that zero period, there used to be an option too. Can you speak to that? Have they tried? I know it's harder with Juntos, but have they tried to, I just, if you could tell us more about that space and
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a good question. I think we've tried to come up with different solutions over the years. So there were also about 2 years where at Columbia, because of the Juntos program, there was an offering of geometry at a zero period. It was because of Juntos program design that they offered it during zero periods, because we can offer non-core content courses at that time. So Spanish language arts, PE, geometry, because it's not the core class, they were taking algebra at the time. Originally it was designed for Juntos students, but because of how the master schedule worked, it was also opened up to some students that weren't in the Juntos program. The way staffing works and bell schedule works, actually geometry is no longer in zero period because Juntos has expanded now. And we have so many students at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which is great, that we have Spanish language at zero period. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, it answers the question. Can you just, my brain is not understanding, just help walk me through a little more why, because that has expanded, geometry can't be there. My brain's not wrapping my head around that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try and explain something complicated without graphs or a visual.
I'm do my best to visualize it.
So we'll visualize together. Part of it was at the time period, we didn't have as many sections of Spanish language arts that we were teaching. And so to make sure that all the Juntos students had their 7 courses, including Spanish language arts, geometry was an option for some of them during zero period. With the expansion of Juntos, you have more sections of Spanish language arts, and we also had more sections of geometry. And part of it is staffing, how many teachers can teach zero period in their own schedule, and that limits how many sections we can offer. So I know that's not a really clear explanation. I think what would be better if I follow up and kind of diagram it out.
Yeah.
Because I'm finding myself also struggling to explain it clearly.
Yeah. And that's, it's fine.
So maybe a follow-up question for that would be if there was a need, if there was a demonstrable need that we have more students who are qualified for geometry, would they be able to add an sufficient, like within the schedule, like in a 0 period schedule or within the schedule, would they be able to add? Like, will we have to change the kinds of teachers we're hiring, right? Like, would we need more math teachers?
So I don't think it would be about adding more math teachers.
Change what they're teaching.
It could possibly change their schedule, their start time, their end time. I think something that we were working around is not creating a 0 period for geometry. And here are some reasons why, and I didn't actually talk about them in the introduction. So one is that we know that later start times generally is what our students and families want. And I think some families like Juntos is going to resurvey families just about 0 period in general. So that's where I just want to give like a general feel for like how people feel about a 0 period right now. The other part is that we know that blue pathway isn't for everybody. Like, we created it because we think that it is the right pathway for some students. I know there was a question about previously staff had highly recommended that we not push students to geometry. So I just wanted to outline that, again, conceptually, algebra is very abstract thinking. We know that. And like 10 years ago, it was almost a real push to get to algebra. For some students, we know that actually is a good fit for them, not all. We think it's a pretty small subset of our population, not to say that we want to discourage families or students. We want to encourage them. So I wanted to make sure that we're clear that we want to encourage all students based on a family response. But we know that it's not for everybody. So there's that. The other part is a 0 period brings up some challenges with transportation, family engagement. So we wanted to make sure that we kept the blue pathway out of a 0 period. And there's a real cost to adding a 0 period to the schedule. Is there anything I want to, okay, I was holding on to like a couple different things that I wanted to say, okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna change gears,
And the only other piece, not the only, but important piece too, as a part of us always trying to intervene and support all students, this was a way by which to support our students who want this, who need this acceleration, and that's where they are with their strengths. So we want to be sure that we're meeting all students where they are on the continuum, and this is kind of where this is coming from.
Okay, I'll set the stage and then kind of share my concern and my question. So my brain has kind of like this math, I generally like the stuff, but I kind of have, there's like, in my mind, kind of two pieces, right? So there's the math pathways that gives more kids more opportunities to jump into advanced math, right? So to me, that's like, they're connected for sure, right? But that's one section. I would say that one, I'm generally like super excited about. I mean, there's, I think I'm sure like you guys talk about, there are some concerns and like trying to get everything you need in the summer can be tricky, but I'm excited that I think this is falling in line with the strategic plan, right? And this space of, having more kids, right? Like be able to be successful academically, and then also specifically, right? Trying to diversify that our algebra classes, like our advanced math classes are showing the same demographic as our school sites, right? So I think while like it could be really tricky, I am hopeful that like this really will help with that part. It's exciting. So then the other piece, which again, they're connected, but I think they are different, then besides bringing in more opportunities to jump in, we're now separating the algebra geometry, right? And that was, I appreciate it, like, that was one of my things, like I remember, because I've been on the board for a while ago, there was a push for this, and it was like, that's not what's generally best for most amount of kids, and so we did it. So that was kind of my question, was a little bit like, why in that space? So anyways, I think like with any decision you make, there are pros and cons, right? So there are pros and cons for this decision. I do think, right, that there are like some parents who really want this, and it will, for like a small group of kids, will be a helpful space, and I totally recognize that. But I think what I'm most concerned about is that the gaps that we are trying to work on are just going to get widened now by that space. And so kind of this is what I had written. So kind of question mixed with that concern that I just shared. What plans are in place to ensure that these changes don't widen the divides we already have? And for those to me, right, I like analogies and things. So I was thinking about, the analogy of like the tide and lifting boats, right? And so that idea that like, we wanna make sure that we're lifting all boats. And right, my concern of this space is that the boats that are already in a higher tide are just gonna rise even higher, while others are staying down here, right? And so, anyways, I'm just using an analogy to like help my brain and others maybe to see where my concerns are.
I don't think it'll, as you say, make the gap wider, because we're not changing who the students are or what we're actually currently giving them. We're actually providing an opportunity to package that in a way that's more meaningful instructionally. I think the important thing to remember, I know different parents have different philosophies about that, and just probably educators in general. But the reality is, even in any of our pathways, you're on track to being A through G compliant to go to any university that you really want to. So I think sometimes we think we're behind, and you're not behind, because students are actually getting what they need. And I think we forget they have 4 years of high school. And so yes, some kids are ready for that, and we just want to be able to be in a position to support that and cultivate that. But at the same time, it's not like you're in a remedial program if you choose the even 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then starting your algebra in 9th grade. Some will feel like you're behind. The reality is you are not behind, and you can always still accelerate again if you want to. And it's also depending on what are your goals, what are your aspirations, where are you mathematically and within science, what are you aspiring to as a student? And we're just trying to position how we're teaching and what we're providing in a way that is meaningful regardless to where you are on that continuum. But I don't think it will expand the gap, because our goal is whichever classroom you're in, we're meeting you where you are as a student and providing you the resources that you need to be successful in that. Even if it's difficult struggle or productive struggle for you in some of these other classes, we're to be there. I think one of the public commented on, just being sure we're supporting students, even if it's difficult for them. And I think that's where we want to come into the space, that even if it's difficult for a student who's in an accelerated pathway, being sure we're providing them what they need so that they can be successful. Dr. Valentine, Jane, is there anything I missed that you want to add?
I would just say, as you were talking, I just lost what I was saying. If it comes back to me, there's something you said that made me like think of something else, but I lost it, so we'll go on and it comes back.
It'll come back, I'm sure.
Hopefully.
Just write it down. Peggy?
Hi, thank you for this presentation and for all the work that you put into preparing pathways. I attended one of the outreach sessions, and it was very thorough, and there were a lot of parent questions that I think were answered well. One thing that I am wondering about is the bridge courses, the summer bridge courses, and how those would be staffed, and if there is enough, like, do we have the resources for that? But beyond that, aside from this pathway, and this is something that we alluded to in many of the packet questions, was about the students that aren't included in this pathway. What kinds of plans are there, like what types of plans for intensive intervention perhaps during the summer are there to get all of our students up to grade level? Because if we are trying to get them to high school where they can, get the A through G requirements, they have to be at grade level. And I'm concerned that some of our students, like in Michelle's analogy, are lower on those waves. And I just want to make sure that we are also supporting those students as much as we can.
Like, just to be clear, they're on the pathway because they're in math 6 and then they go to math 7 and then they go to math 8, but they're far below grade level.
They're not being successful in those classes.
Right.
Finding success in those classes. That's right.
That's exactly right.
Like they're technically in there, but they're not finding success.
Yes.
Well,
and we want them to. Yeah.
And like we've heard that, from our site visits and walkthroughs with principals and like just discussions about like why are certain behaviors happening, and it's like, well, sometimes a student would rather be angry or out of control in math class if they don't understand the math. It's just easier to be like reactive and like, get thrown out than to like not know what's going on, So, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons, like selfish class management reasons, want to support the student reasons. I mean, there's like a million reasons why we want kids to be more supported at each, to catch up. So like my question kind of piggybacks on that. It's sort of like there's this plan. It's like, what is the overlay plan for when kids are far below grade level? How do we catch them up so that what does 6th, 7th, and 8th grade look like for a student who's like a couple coming into middle school, like 2 or 3 like grade years behind in math academically? So how do we support them? What do their summers look like? And
I mean, our summer programming, of course, is built with that in mind. Of course, it's not like an intensive academic programming and has not been. We try to infuse that as much as we possibly can. We continue to strive different avenues. Like last year, we tried the Math Academy, wasn't the right fit for our students, it's not doing what we needed to. So we're always looking for additional summer, but more importantly, opportunities during the school year, because the reality is families have different expectations and goals during the summer. That becomes a little bit more challenging. But we are trying to provide that intervention support through the instructional day, and then also with some of the after-school tutorials that are happening. I think all of our schools are always trying to figure out how to do that and also balance with the teachers we have. I will say a lot of our efforts to look at other programs, we continue to have a consistent challenge. Is there sometimes a disconnect between what they're teaching and where our students are and what they need? And sometimes by the time they get up to where we need them to do, the 4 weeks is up or the 5 weeks is up. So it's trying to find the right intervention match with where our students are and what they need. And that's sometimes difficult with some of these outside programs. And so we keep looking, and we're looking at that as a part of the program planning that we're doing right now. That's kind of what we're looking at. Which tools that we currently have are working and informing our teachers the way that they need to instructionally. And then are there other ways by which we can assess and do ongoing progress monitoring? We're trying to look at what is the right tools, what are the right things to inform our instruction. And then coming from our teachers just in general is just looking at how to teach mathematics and become better at teaching those skills. And I think that's where we're putting much more time and effort in with ongoing training to do that, not just to teach the curriculum, but to just be stronger in instructing math, especially for our struggling students.
That I just thought that it wasn't the goal of this presentation, because sometimes we think we're talking about the whole math and we're just talking about this little page. But if it's relevant, I think my kids went to the bridge when they went towards their accelerated path. And as I remember that it was a very concise plan, and it has these few weeks when you have to make half year of math in 2 or 2 weeks, and so you see 5 hours a day of math or something like that. So it was very intense, very purposive towards what they wanted to do, and they did it. When I seen the summer programs, it normally has a different goal. But the bridge idea, I don't know how you're gonna build it or how it could be, but to use that bridge idea into really make an intense few weeks to bring kids to where they're supposed to be by the time they get to middle school will be amazing. I don't know if it's called bridge or whatever, but to build from that idea, to take the kids apart of the group during summer and bring them where they're supposed to be on day one. And maybe these same kids that went to the bridge during that summer, they end up doing geometry at the end of their middle school career, because they start loving it and they see that it's not something horrible to hate, but something amazing. But that would be a great
I think one of my packet questions was like, how can we get an intensive summer bridge for intervention, right? That same concept.
Wait, no.
Did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, that is along the lines, not just for middle school, but how we reach those kids, not just over the summer, yes, that'd be great, but also during the school year, making sure that they have that in enough time for that, that high impact one-on-one foundational amount, or not necessarily one-on-one, but that time for the foundational math skill building so that every student can be successful when they leave our district. I do see big gaps, just even in elementary school where I am, and that's very worrisome for me because I don't know what we're doing to bridge those gaps, and I don't know if our teachers, not because they're bad teachers or anything, or not even like don't have enough, PD, but rather just like the sheer numbers of students that are so far behind. How are we really spending this intensive focus on them as well? And those just also happen to be our focus subgroups, right? That we don't see those proficiencies moving. So I would like to see that like real commitment, in addition to like along the lines of our promise of making sure every student can succeed and every student has that rigor we need, is to make sure that those students that might not be on advanced track are at least on track for A through G when they leave our district.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of, I was just thinking as you guys were talking about that, so I don't know if this is like the right thing to ask for or like right way, but maybe next year we get something kind of similar-ish, right? So a math pathways, I don't think it'll be quite as like structured as this, but some sort of idea like a math pathways for students, I'm imagining like 3rd through 8th grade or whatever, right? To be successful at grade level. And I feel like that would, I mean, so maybe I'm off base, but I feel like that's kind of what you guys were saying. And it connects to, right, in the strategic plan, right, about making more than 1 year's academic growth. So I don't know for sure. I know we're probably just starting the process of what are the main focus areas of the strategic plan for next year. So if math is a part of it, I think that would be a great thing to essentially, again, it would be an ish, it wouldn't be the exact same, but like getting a presentation like this on the math pathways-ish for students to be successful at grad level in math. I don't know, that's something for us to consider maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, I really think that we do need to understand, we do need an understanding of, I'm really happy we have the middle school math pathways in general. I'm glad we added some more layers. My comment is the same as Peggy's. I would like to see intensive, or similar to Peggy's, I would like to see an intensive summer bridge for students who are far below grade level, like Isabel and Peggy have said. I did want to comment a little on the process of this, because I think normally for approval items, we have a opportunity for like review and discussion before approval. Like we have, I know we're trying to be efficient and we have less meetings at the end of the year than normal. But for the process and outreach, that I know that initially it just went to middle school families, right? For the families who were in there. And maybe that makes sense because they're in the middle school, they understand what middle school is. Sometimes the elementary students don't know what middle school is. And they're very fearful of it, but I know that at least at some of the elementary schools, parents that I've been talking to, they've been very interested in what's happening at math in the middle schools. And there was also only one, because of that, I think there was only one board member who was informed of it initially, right? So like Michelle is the only person with a middle schooler. So like none of the other board members knew that like what was happening other than like the update from Mike. So, and then the last one, an invitation went out, but like the day of or the day before or something like that. So just for things like middle school in the future, I would hope that we could invite people from like throughout all grade levels to come.
I do want to clarify, because I may have the grades wrong, but I know it went to 5th graders. Did it go beyond 5th grade?
K7.
Yeah.
But the whole, all of them?
Not the first time.
Yeah,
So there were two, as far as I could see from my communication, there were 2 outreach meetings. And the first one, I did not get notification of it, but I did attend because I have, friends that have middle school students that were telling me like this is happening. I was like, I didn't know, I'm gonna hop on. And then the second one, it came out like at midnight the night before, and that did go to K
Yeah, that was a reminder that came out the day before, so there were some communications that came before that. I don't have my timeline in front of me, but it actually did go out
To everybody.
to K through 7, yeah.
Was there a letter that went out in the mail too? A letter that?
It was an email through our messenger system.
So I think that, so people, maybe, I don't know, seems like we did.
That unfortunately always happens, right? Like,
Okay, well, so great, I'm glad that it was.
tricky, right? Communication's always tricky.
Okay, I'm glad that that was a mistake on my part, because I thought it was just went out to middle schoolers.
Well, we know that, we know what the intent was.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe it didn't quite work out.
Okay, so the other thing was, I just wanted to talk about expectations because, surrounding incidences of like teens who are feeling a lot of pressure, and suicide ideation and things like that, or like there was a recent incident on Caltrain and everything. So, people get elevated when they worry about groups of students feeling too much pressure, high school students, right? And we don't want to, I heard Katie Rowland's comment about how we're messaging it, like, are you good enough, are you sure? That, like, what they're hearing anyway, and just the need for focusing on messaging. I think that at least when my kids were at SMS, I've said this before, the messaging was like, do what you can, right? Like, right, do your best, everyone, just feel free if you wanna just write one sentence or two sentences, like, that's fine, like, everything everyone does has value. Well, I'm telling you, Ethan's doing fine in college now, but he just really took it to heart, like, awesome. I am on vacation for like 3 years, That kid was not self-motivated in middle school, and he just took it as a vacation. Now, other students who you might say that to might hear something very different, because Ethan heard, like, take a mental beach moment, and like another kid might hear something like, you're not good enough, I don't expect very much from you. So I think having high expectations, multiple pathways, and say, hey, look, the door's still open, feel free, like, walk through it anytime you want, it's there, we've got you. Like, I love that messaging in general, all the way across. And so, without torturing anybody, like, you have to do this, or this is the end of the world, like, just even establishing that, like, there are multiple doorways open for you all the time, and we're gonna keep holding it open for you. And I wanna really commend Dr. Ballantyne for making a comment about transportation, because I think for all of these, like, even the barriers for summer school that for our middle schoolers where their families are dependent on them for childcare, or they need transportation, I think all of those things are factors we're gonna have to look at, and I'm supportive of all those things, so. But I would like to, if there was any way to get a presentation, like if a focus for next year might possibly be on middle schools, I would love to dig in on, like, a day in the life, like, how do we improve, what's a pathway for a kid who's, in 6th grade coming in far below grade level, and then, or a 7th grader who's far below grade level, and how do we get him ready for success in high school and beyond? So those are my comments.
Thank you.
Are we ready to vote, or anything else?
I just want to mention one more thing about the intentionality around the messaging for the communities. When I was listening into the Zoom outreach, I did hear both Mr. Usaki and Mr. Pro talk about their own children and being very accepting of where they were and not pushing. But they are educators, who are very in tune to their kids and their students. And while our schools aren't necessarily known to be like pressure cooker type schools like some others that feed into the same high school district, I do want to be aware that the child mental health and the family, whole child, like that support. And that comment that both Ambrosia and Katie made about just the culture and the intentionality around the belonging and making sure that students feel supported while also keeping up that level of rigor, right? I mean, it's a balance, and that's different for every family. But I do think that there needs to be some real intentionality around that within the community and for parents as well, for the community.
And I just want to add again, all of the pathways are equipping students with what they need to move forward. And I think that's really important for us all to remember, and for us to remember as well. So again, we want to push the appropriate push, right? And be supportive of our students on where they are, and be sure that they have the right cognitive load for what they can handle, which is really important.
Thank you. And then here's my other thing.
Yes, okay.
Okay, just a small side piece, I'm just more, and you may be already aware, but just giving it to you since I have kids who were just recently in middle school and so you said, I can't remember the wording you used, but you were saying, that like, technically if you're on 6, 7, 8, that is like regular track, right? Like that is not behind, that is regular. And just culturally speaking, and I don't know, right, if the kids come up on their own, if it's because of comments teachers make, like I can't tell you where it comes from. But that is not the culture, right? The culture is if you're 6, 7, 8, you are behind. So I just think, like, you're probably aware of that, but I just wanted to share that as a pair with kids there that like that.
Absolutely, and I know our society does that, which is why I wanted to reiterate it. So if there's any kids out there listening, you're not behind. Exactly.
Okay, board, we ready to vote? All those in favor of passing the new math pathways, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the action passes. Great. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, board.
Thanks.
We do it, happens again.
Yay, we got it. A lot of work. Thank you. Okay, so we are on to item 12B, which is the 2024-2025 second interim budget report and positive certification. With our Chief Business Officer, Mr. Arthur Cuffey.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Arthur Cuffey, the Chief Business Officer. Tonight, I will be presenting on the second interim budget for the 24-25 school year. I always like to ground this in our promise that every student would be known by name, strength, and need, ready to excel in high school and beyond, and lead a life of joy and purpose. That's our why. That's why we're all here. So the structure of this meeting, there's going to be some review for our newer board members. For our newer board members, but I will go through pretty quickly and just speak to some of the key takeaways on that. So the overview of the presentation, we will start with kind of higher level with the broader economic outlook. We'll progressively work our way down to more detail with the statewide considerations. We'll then talk a little bit about local budget conditions. We'll get into some cost reduction measures, the second interim budget projections. We'll take a look ahead, and we'll round out with some reflective practices. And at the very end, we'll stop for questions, but if you guys have questions in the middle, please feel free. All right, AB 1200, what is it? Well, it's kind of the reason why we're here tonight. So AB 1200, simply put, is a set of regulations that the state puts in place for school districts. Basically requires us to run our finances through a set or a series of tests with the intent to raise flags if there's anything awry or any reason to believe we won't be able to meet our financial obligations in the current or 2 subsequent years. So things like the multi-year projection, cash flow, these are all parts of AB 1200. AB 1200 is to be taken extremely seriously. Since we're a subsidiary of the state and their educational system, they're ultimately responsible for us. And so they will step in to take control of a district that's not able to properly manage its resources and meet its obligations. Spoiler alert, we are quite on track to do so. However, there's a deeper conversation that is necessary. One that acknowledges where we've been, where we are now, and what will be most vital as we move forward. So we'll jump into overview of the economic outlook. And so inflation remains high, could likely increase amongst some of the uncertainty out here in the markets. Stock markets showing some volatility, which would have an immense impact on our state budget. Interest rates are likely to remain high. Growth has slowed as economic conditions fueling past growth have changed. And overall, the U.S. economy is currently still strong, but there are definitely reasons to be cautious. So briefly wanted to touch on the federal landscape. So it's too soon to tell the impacts of this new administration, but I did want to put some context to our federal funding. So only 2% of our general fund is from federal sources, and 22% of our child nutrition funding. We're not anticipating that these funds would not be available, as cuts to the funding would require acts of Congress. Our main concern, financially at least, in terms of the new administration, is related to the potential impacts to inflation with the proposed tariffs. Next, just some more economic forecasts. So the one point I wanted to highlight was the one on housing here. So due to labor constraints, the tragedies and fires in LA, and the conditions for growth not being favorable to investors, we're seeing a loss of momentum in construction, forecasting less development than we've seen in past years. So this slide comes from our good partners, School Services of California. They typically always share this slide when they give their governor's budget updates. And so what I want you guys to pay attention to in this slide is the column that says expenditures. So the expenditures that we have, there's kind of some automatic costs built into our system. So step and column movements are just automatic. Those are when a teacher or a staff member moves down the step and column. Those are increased costs year over year. Next will be inflation. There's no way getting around inflation. It is a reality that all school districts have to deal with. Also PERS increases. Next will be the special education contribution. So that continues to grow. The way the funding works is it's based on your total enrollment rather than your special education student counts. And so in a period of declining enrollment, you'll see your funding for special education decline. And then last but not least, just the insurance premiums and liability costs. So we've seen insurance and liability premiums go up 20% year over year. So these are real cost increases that we just have to absorb as a district. It's not just Sunnyvale, it's statewide, but often before anything happens, the cost increase for expenditures will outpace revenues. So I wanted to share this slide. I thought it was a pretty interesting statistic. 6% of the statewide workforce was funded by one-time funds. So this is a state and really a nationwide dilemma. We're seeing measures to address reduction measures to address this all around us. Stanford, Harvard both have hiring freezes. There's several local school districts that have to make difficult decisions because of the one-time funds expiring, amongst all the other cost increases that are naturally embedded in the system. And so although we have challenges to address, we are uniquely positioned and fortunate to have some options. So again, our youth partners, school services never miss a chance to make a good CVO joke. So the acronym that you see, I guess the planks, they represent the last rounds of one-time funds. So the ESSER, the LRE, and then this new one. And in essence, I think their message was just be very cautious with the proposal. There is a proposal for one-time funding next year. However, the proposals have often changed and the allocation methods have changed. And so we'll know more in June and finally when the budget is enacted in July. But their core message was just be very cautious and don't utilize these one-time funds to manage long-term commitments. All right, so we'll jump into some of our local budget conditions. So as I said before, many districts use the one-time funds to add personnel and programs. We were one of them. The expiration of those one-time funds truly do unmask some of the structural deficits that we and most districts in the state need to address. With costs rapidly increasing, and the revenues and the conditions for growth slowing, it's really important for us to have some proactive approaches to and strategies. So again, cost reductions are happening all around, but these are the times where having a reserve prove invaluable. And so it would be totally appropriate to utilize reserves and or one-time funding to extend our runway, help us create options to resolve some of the reductions that are needed through attrition. And so the last point or local budget condition I wanted to point out was the TK programs. As Jeremy, in the wise words of Mr. Nishihara, TK is a thing. So we've had to grow and expand the program. Sorry, Jeremy. We've had to expand this program pretty rapidly. 9 new classrooms, so that's 9 teachers, as well as 16 para-educators, which adds an additional $2.5 million a year in staffing alone. And that does not include the specialized facility needs that comes with the program, and also the infrastructural needs that have to be built. We're building a program from scratch. And so there is, for a community funded district like we are, there is no additional funding to support this. And so what this ends up resulting is just more pressure on the general fund. So for some of you, this is review, you've seen it before, but for those who haven't, this is just a graph to show students and staff. The blue line shows our enrollment over time. You'll see us over the course of the last year, we've had a bump up in TK or from TK enrollment. And at the same token, you'll see the orange line has steadily increased, supported by the one-time funding that we got from the pandemic relief. Next is just our student to staff ratios over time. So looking back 10 years ago, we have 30% more staff per student, which is a sizable investment Again, just putting it into context, if we were to staff at the ratios of 10 years ago, that would equate to a $44 million a year difference. And so just again, kind of facts to see kind of where we are. There's reasons, underneath all of this, but it's important just to, know the story of how we got to where we are. Also, this one is a total win. As you guys most likely know, turnover has an incredible impact on organizations. And so remaining competitive with our compensation is not only a win for our employees, but it's a win for our entire system. When you have turnover, you have to kind of start from scratch, and there's just mindset, culture, and all these things that you have to start over with. So continuing to be competitive has been a real advantage and a win for us over time. But that said, it is a reality that the cost, to combat the cost of living, the cost over time has risen significantly. So just another data point. This one is the one-time funds averaging about $4 million per year, and that is set to expire. So again, just putting more pressures on the rest of our budget. And this one is updated with the second interim numbers as well. You'll see a few years in the past, we were bringing in more revenue than we had expenditures, but that has reversed, and now we are spending more than we are bringing in. So just something that we're keeping in mind, and our goal is this isn't a perfect depiction of our structural deficit, which would take out any one-time funding and one-time expenditures, but this is a rough view of what our structural deficit looks like, because we have one-time revenues and expenditures. Okay, so next would be, I wanted to just take a second to go through what our process is for our cost reduction measures. So this process actually began back in August. So it started with we as executive cabinet just discussing where we were, what our goals were, and identifying some of the challenges that would be in front of us. Next, we brought the discussion into cabinet. We had a deep dive late August and began the process of what we call backwards mapping. It's basically where we knew our goal as of a certain date and started looking backwards to what milestones we felt like we would need to hit in order to accomplish that. Then we moved to certain focus groups we continued our analysis and fact gathering in the subsequent cabinet meetings, and we began to draft a communication plan. Then we had some focus groups and breakout meetings where we started the process of idea generation and really trying to analyze the impacts of each one of the possibilities for cost reductions. Again, we really wanted to be thoughtful and intentional. We're in the midst of really trying to achieve some goals here, so it wouldn't be responsible for us to just do things without really running it through several filters and vetting the ideas. So next, we kind of brought those focus groups, the information from the focus groups back to cabinet, and we drafted or we finalized a draft plan that we wanted to present to all of our educational leadership. So on November 5th, we engaged all the principals and assistant principals, presented the draft plan. Jeremy had he called it a note-taking something where it was like a live document as the presentation was happening. Principals and assistant principals would log their questions and concerns, and so it was a really kind of engaging and open dialogue where we received all that feedback. From that feedback, we continued that loop, and in December, the revision number 4 was presented. Revision number 4 was presented in January, but every check-in with the principals, we were talking about this proposed plan. It got refined, and revision number 5 was brought to ILT on February 5th. And in that meeting, the principals were given slides to share with the staff who would be impacted. So we wanted to be super transparent. We wanted to make sure that, for instance, coaches, there's like a different plan for how we would administer coaching. We wanted to make sure that they were aware and had an opportunity to offer their feedback and concerns. And so, like, literally in the meeting notes, it was, this is not a secret, please share it. Here's the communication plan, here's the process, and so it was deployed on that day, February 5th. So I stole some language from that meeting document and pasted it right in here. As we right-size our staffing, given expenditures of one-time funds and our continuing declining enrollment, we're committed to avoiding layoffs as much as possible, using retirements and attrition to absorb staffing. So we're really leaning heavily on that, but in that requires proactive action, right? Because the runway is only for so long, and so we have to take that opportunity and move as quickly as possible. So what came from that were the planned reductions to be implemented at the start of next year. And so the first was kind of dialing back some of the additional coaches that positions that we created with the one-time funds. So we went back to where we were prior to the one-time funds, which was 17 positions. So from 23 to 17. That was actually the biggest chunk of the plan reductions. Also, we went into, we went deep into just all of these options, and we felt that we could administer services in a different way that would create some efficiency. So, for instance, counseling, behavioral, and playground support contracts. We felt like we would be able to reduce some of those, but still deliver the service just in a new model of delivery. And so again, that ran through the vetting process of all of those months. We also identified some operational contracts to reduce, such as Zoom. We're going to keep the one account for the board meetings. It's been working well, so we didn't want to toy with that. And also Panorama, so not that we're gonna stop taking surveys, but we have another system that we're planning to use.
And then for Zoom, we're gonna replace that with Google Meets.
Correct. Google Meets, yes. Thanks.
It's already baked into our system, so yeah.
Yes. Also, we identified a new model for how we can manage long-term independent studies. So we were able to reduce one teacher position there. Again, no one's losing their job. There are positions for people to be placed, but that specific position we don't need in the same capacity. We also found some contracts, some substitute support contracts that we were confident we could reduce and still maintain the supports needed.
Let's say that name. Yeah.
Yes, so
Jeremy, do you wanna?
Yeah. Well, just before I pass it to Jeremy, I intentionally didn't put contract like vendor names, because I think in this in the spirit of good partnership, I don't think they should learn, like, from this meeting. You get what I'm saying? So, yes, if we could just.
General speaking.
Yeah, I'll speak in generalities. This is part of the kind of the substitute teacher kind of mesh thing that we've kind of put together. So we have our Project Hoagie, which are the permanent subs, and then we utilize our sub pool as well as another contracted service. So it's the contracted service that we're trying to right size a little bit to make sure then our sub pool picks it up and it does yield some savings. So it's not like we're getting rid of substitutes, we're just right sizing.
Just adjusting a little bit.
That is correct, and I do appreciate Arthur's kind of sensitivity to that effect, so that was a little in general, but
okay.
Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
And last, was, we were able just by the kind of general declining enrollment to identify 6 teacher positions. However, those positions were quickly offset by the expansion of TK. We're adding 4 TK teachers as well as paraeducators. So that one was pretty much a wash, but these were the reductions that we have planned for 25-26, and that was the process that we ran it through to get there. So the next slide. This is just kind of you've seen this format once before, at least some of you have. But it looks back into the past by category. This is our general fund. So certificated salaries, classified salary benefits, etc. So it goes backwards, and we have this year and going forward. And so one thing I wanted you to kind of highlight is the bottom right corner where the red and the yellow highlights kind of meet. Those highlighted the percentages with the year-over-year change. So for this year, our total expenditures, we're projecting a 7% increase from last year. But if you look forward after that, you'll see a 2% increase, a negative 1%, and a 1%. And so what I've been able to accomplish from first interim to second interim was again, baking in these cost reduction, the assumptions of these cost reduction measures, as well as we have more data to see, for instance, if we have a master contract that comes to the board, it's an up to amount. And so that means we have, throughout the course of the year, we as a district have the authority to spend up to this amount before coming back to you to ask to increase it. Now, throughout the course of the year, that doesn't mean we spend that entire contract. So now we have more actual data and we can track, monthly cost or daily cost. We realized some savings in our projections, and so you'll see the reductions, the cost reduction measures, as well as those savings kind of showing some of the decreases in the future. So wanted to definitely point that out. All right, so next is our reserves. So this is back to AB 1200. It's kind of what it's all about. So you look at those darker blue bars at the bottom, that is our obligation to meet the 3% minimum. However, we locally, through the great leadership that came before me, we passed resolutions and we have a target of 20% reserves. It's incredibly important, again, to have that, especially when you're community funded, because things can fluctuate. We'll talk a bit about that in a second. All right, multi-year assumptions. I'll breeze through these pretty quickly. So the top one is the cost of a 1% pay increase. The next would be the property tax growth. You'll see our projections for the coming year. And remember, with property tax growth, it's staggered a year. So we're the data of this year will determine next year's funding. So we're actually seeing really low growth. And so those numbers have been adjusted down. We're not as optimistic as we were in first interim. We'll get to that in a second. No major changes to our enrollment projections. Again, slight uptick in TK, followed by kind of some of the declining enrollment working its way through back into our system. Here, something that was interesting to me that I wanted to point out. So our unduplicated counts, which is the percentage of our students that identify as English learners, low income students, or foster youth, it declined from 45% to around 41%. Now, there's different reasons that could have happened with universal meals. Not maybe, or potentially not every family is filling out the form. So that's something that we're keeping an eye on. But I did find that very interesting to see such a sharp decline. And the last one I will touch on, well, no, second to last, Measure Y, again, is in our projections, and the community support has been amazing. And last but not least, we always want to be transparent about what is assumed in the budget. And so we're rounding out year 3 of 3 of our negotiated agreement. So this year, the 3% increase is in the budget. There's nothing assumed thereafter. Okay. Commercial real estate. So our property tax base, a considerable amount is actually fueled by the growth in the commercial real estate sector, and we're not seeing a favorable market right now. Due to many things, but in essence, it's just the demand is not there. Let me pull up some notes I wanted to share with you guys about that. So, market valuation is simple, it's economics, supply and demand. So I'll talk a bit about the supply. So the supply is increasing. So you have buildings in like huge office buildings in Glendale, California, being sold at a 60% discount. The one here is, not local, it's Manhattan, but I thought that was crazy is the word, yes. 97% discount is what that sold for in Manhattan. Yes, it's hard to believe. Also, there's the impacts from the federal government. So they're starting massive sell-offs, and they're terminating and canceling leases. So there's going to be a larger supply of these large office spaces. So supply will increase. On the demand side, there's some mixed signals. We're still not fully back to work in the Bay Area. There's about 66% of people going to work, and sometimes it's like a few days a week. But something that is giving me some optimism is the push from the tech industry to increase people coming back to work. And so that's really fueled by by AI. And so, the AI boom is kind of bringing people back to work, and that's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. All right, so this comes from the assessor's office. Again, the main lever for us to make investments in what we can and can't do comes from our property taxes. And so this is a report directly from the assessor's office. And what I've highlighted here are the corrections. And this is, again, due to Prop 8, which is, it allows an owner to appeal the assessed valuation, basically get a reduction in their tax bill. Now, when a property is sold, completed, new construction completed, it is assessed, and the supplemental tax bill goes out. Now that entity has to pay the tax bill. However, they can file an appeal. Now sometimes that appeal takes time to work itself through the system. It goes to the county board of supervisors, there's a hearing date, and, you know, we have some pretty massive, appeal amounts that are active, that are actually coming up pretty soon. So those are things that I'm keeping an eye on, but those numbers on the side, are the active appeal amounts for the fiscal years. I talked to, the assistant assessor earlier today, and he was telling me, don't be fooled by the lower amount in 24-25. That just means people haven't filed yet. It will come in, and it will likely be higher than the year before. So there's a lot of risk when you are in an area that has new development in a market like this. Right? So the valuations are high, and a lot of people can get that reassessment from Prop 8. And so there is some risk in our future with property tax, the short-term future. Okay, the road ahead. So I've been working, communication and engagement plan. So I've been working with our communications manager, Leah Wilson, there in the back. And so we will be sending out a high-level budget overview to staff first within the next few weeks, followed by a similar communication to our families, just to acknowledge our challenges, to communicate our goals of eliminating our structural deficit over time, and why that's important. We also want to reassure people that we're being thoughtful and doing all we can to minimize the impacts on staff and students. And the next piece of engagement will come from our community meetings. So that would be the special ed community meetings, the DLAC, our school site council, the meetings with our labor partners, SEA and CSEA. And then coming back here to the board level in April with our discussion about local indicators and where we are with the actions that we want to bring forth for our new LCAP. And so that engagement, this engagement season, and it's on the horizon. So that is kind of our communication plan. We'll also be monitoring all of those budget related indicators and incorporate them as they become measurable. For future reductions that we will need, we're gonna run a similar process as the one that I just explained. We've already started to schedule the meetings. Again, there's several layers. Now, what this would be, we'll know more in June because we'll know the scope of what reductions our goal would be. But the idea was to convene and run ideas through multiple layers, and then in June have like a better sense of what our target is. And now what that means is, again, we're committed to no layoffs in next year, but it would allow us we know positions that we're trying to reduce over time. It gives us a whole year of, as resignations or people leave, not filling those vacancies. And so we can absorb a lot of it through that. But again, the key is to be proactive and timely with that.
We just want to make sure we have time for comments.
Yes, sorry.
We're gonna have to extend.
Yeah.
I haven't even got to the part that I think you guys would actually enjoy. So
yeah, some of it was kind of down.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
All right, I'm gonna bring this back up.
Okay, here we go.
We'll know more in June. And again, we will continue to be thoughtful, proactive, and transparent. That's the message I wanted to make clear. All right, so staying centered. So I did something like this, I think 6 months ago. And I wanted to run through that same process again. So I really appreciate the the equity statement and the component of reflective practices. And so, again, staying centered in why we're all here, I wanted to take this opportunity to just reflect on some of the successes of the year. And maybe we can start to answer the question is, how do our actions support our goals? So let's reflect. Over the past year, we have expanded transportation. I'm gonna start firing, so just bear with me. We've expanded transportation services so that students who qualify can access the after-school enrichment opportunities. Now with this, for this, we get a 60% reimbursement from the state. The team's been incredible, filling for a recent vacancy from a retirement. We boosted attendance and safety for our kids. We're able to buy 2 electric buses funded 90% with a grant. We are bringing filtered water bottle filling stations to all sites. We've expanded our Scratch Cooking, the child nutrition program, through the incredible work and dedication of our team. We're expanding our parent-student engagement for that program through feedback surveys and engagement opportunities at Principal Coffees. We've also expanded the enrichment opportunities within our after-school programs, and big kudos to all of the dedicated KLAS coordinators who've helped bring this to life. We had to expand that program over the course of the year to now offer to all our English learners, low-income students, and foster youths. So again, big shout out to them. We are implementing the new middle school math pathways. We've been able to fund all students to have access to science camp. We have expanded the arts and music program. We're able to offer a robust employee support system for staff experiencing social and emotional challenges through the Resilience Consultation Program. We invested about $215,000 this past year and have already committed to the same this upcoming year for district paid optional teacher PD days for the 2 days prior to their first calendar day. Now, I was actually in a room with teachers and heard their feedback about this directly, and they talked about how unexpected but absolutely appreciated it was. So kudos to Mary Beth and Jeremy for bringing that to fruition. We've expanded transparency into our investments and how they align with our LCAP, now including 85% of our general fund budget rather than 15% from prior year. We gave site local control of the LCAP funding, which gives them more flexibility to address the unique needs of their students. We're building a culture that promotes and is centered around how each adult in our system can have a meaningful impact on our students. Example, Brant has implemented a standing question in weekly transportation check-ins to share a positive student connection that one of them has made. And the same is being done in child nutrition team check-ins. We were able to pass the Measure Y parcel tax with 82% of the public saying, why not? Reaffirming that they're trusting us, which we do not take for granted. Other wins from all of the opportunities created by our great partners from SEF. The ELA and math at both middle schools is doing well, and we're in year 2 of the curriculum adoption. We're proud of the work being done in TK, building a play-based model for learning in our expansion from just 2 sites to now all sites. Being able to visit model child development centers at community colleges and bring some of their practices back within. We recently finished an elementary math PD. I'm one that Jane left because this was her shout out. And we recently finished the elementary math PD and received overwhelmingly positive feedback. We invest just over $1 million a year in resources towards the Columbia Neighborhoods Center. We are contributing over $3 million to the Lakewood Library Project. And once it's finished, we'll have a cost share model similar to the CNC. It's what I call equity in action. And my personal favorite, we have a standout special education teacher at CMS. Sarah, excuse me, sorry, Sarah. She's using a reverse inclusion model and was able to teach an 8th grade student how to read in special education student, how to read in 1 year. Now that student will be able to enter high school in regular education courses because of her dedication to our students. So we've done a lot. We have much to be proud of. Some of the impacts are measurable, but some may not be. But either way, we believe in our guiding principles set forth by the strategic plan. We salute every individual in the system that truly embodies the spirit of human decency and models the core characteristics that we want our students to take with them as they leave us and prepare for that life of joy and purpose. And I'll spare you of the rest because of time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're on for public comment. If there's any member of the public, I see no cards in the room. If there's any member of the public online who would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature now. Okay, so far we have one, and I'll check in again after I make the announcement that you will have 3 minutes for your public comment. Please state your name and affiliation, and the topic is only on this particular item, which is the interim budget report. Just one person?
Yitza Golakota?
Okay, great. Ms. Golakota, please proceed. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gallagher and Board of Trustees for this opportunity. I wanted to thank you for the presentation. It was awesome to see how the district's reserves and the expenditures and the revenues are looking down the road. I am struck by the fact that we've made an excellent strategic planning mission, and we've identified how to address the inequities in the district and all of that. It appears to me that we are having more needs to address, and the revenues are not looking good to support the kind of vision to help our students to perform better. And I appreciate the district trying to line up the attrition and the substitute teacher contracts and all of that to make sure that the total number of FTEs help with the reduction of expenditures. But I do want us to look into avenues where we can raise another parcel tax to help improve the revenue situation down the road. So that is what I have in picture mind. And anywhere there is possible to find synergies in resources that may not be duplicated across sites, that could be also be availed. Right now I see each individual site location trying to spend some funds for some of the programs which could be replicated across multiple sites. If a central person were to be hired, a full-time employee were to be hired. So I'm sure there are synergies that are possible that currently the site funds are getting spent for. So I would urge the district to look into possibilities where these can be streamlined to reduce further expenditure, also have more consistent programming across the sites. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Board, in order for us to have our own conversation on this item and also to finish our discussion with the Hoffman Awards, I think that we're gonna need to extend our meeting if you wanna do that.
Who did the motion?
Thank you.
You made the motion.
I made the motion? Okay. No. Well, I move to extend the.
Who's the one who made the motion on the agenda?
Michelle.
Oh, it was me, sorry. What time do you want to extend to?
Let's say 10.
Let's do 10, we'll try to finish early.
Okay, I move to extend the meeting to 10 o'clock.
I second. No, who second?
Was it Isabel? Yeah, there you go.
I said
it.
I think there was.
Okay, it's getting later by the minute, right? Okay, thanks for it. Okay.
We gotta vote, no.
Yeah, so in order for us to discuss, we need a motion to approve.
No, we need to vote on extending.
Oh, I'm sorry, we know, okay, we need to see it, okay. Woo! All right, let's vote to approve extending the meeting till 10. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Okay, for us to we're gonna approve this, so for us to discuss it, we need a motion to approve.
I move to approve the second interim budget report for the year 2024 to 2025.
I said.
Okay, so who would like to begin? Do you wanna begin with Evelyn and work down again? Does that work or?
Who will start?
She's like, no, wait, okay, go ahead.
Yes. So I just wanted to point out, and we're gonna talk later about it, but we did mention before that there are some districts that are looking for revenue options. And one of them that we're gonna point out later is this after school program that they did with some partners, which is bringing $3 million to the Union
School district, yeah.
Yeah. So might not be the same formula, but there are options out there and other people that is doing what the filling of their own needs first, and then bringing enough revenue to the school so they can fill up their goals, educational goals.
Yeah, I would actually like to direct the district to start looking at revenue generation options. One reason why the daycare situation is so attractive is because it's such a high need with the families. We've heard it over and over. Pre-pandemic, the County Office of Education came in and they told us that there were a couple hundred families who were eligible for preschool, state-funded preschool or low-income cost-relative preschool in 94087. And that throughout the district, so even a preschool expansion option would be one way, but an after-school care option where we could have extended time and go after students with, combine it with some high-intensity tutoring would just be a win-win. And there would be barriers. It's not part of what we do right now, but the idea is if it was sliding scale, it would be something that would take a few years to ramp up for there to be revenue generation, but it could really be a powerful tool considering we have so much that's unknown. And I know other districts around us are directing, they're getting the same message we're getting, and some of them are already in more dire straits than we are. And they're, as a board, they are directing the district to look at not only expanding a sliding scale preschool, a sliding school after school care, just any revenue generating ideas that the district has rather than just looking at cuts. So I don't know, board, could we direct the district in that as one of our things that we agree on?
Yes.
Without being like, that's an idea, without being too prescriptive, like
I just wanna
revenue
elaborate
generation.
on that possibility, because I think it's so encouraging. The one thing I didn't mention was that we went to the, I mean daycare, but also using that as an opportunity to meet our students, the needs of our students, where we're not seeing the type of progress that we'd like to see. But if we have them longer, and if we have them in care, and if there are community members that are willing to pay, and if we can find that model with partnerships with the community, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And that is something I'm very interested in, instead of just thinking about, our deficit and how we're going to have to continue. I really like this idea of let's take control where we can, if we can, right? And I do believe that it will be effort, work, but I do believe that we have the community behind it, not just in this room, but like, outside when we're talking about community partnerships. It's gonna be a concerted effort. There are many different models, but I'm very interested in revenue generation.
Through after school specifically?
Through after school specifically.
I would just be interested to hear staff's perspective on looking at this, like what their thoughts are. And maybe they have to like think about it first and get back to us later. That's totally fine if you don't have an answer.
I have a clarifying question, actually. When you say revenue generation, is the idea that we would find something that not only generates revenue, but like, for lack of a better term, like a net profit to fund something else? Like, because some things will generate revenue, but it would sustain itself. This is a net.
This is a net, like
Okay.
the program that we're talking about, it doesn't use paid sales, could bring extra $3 million to the general fund. That
And
that
that bring my,
Union, no, just
okay.
Union School District.
Oh, just unions, okay.
Yeah.
We will reach out.
Yeah, I guess what I would say is, the direction is pretty broad and it's to begin exploring. Yeah, we could come up with a bunch of reasons why it won't work, but like, let's be creative and let's see the places where it is successful and see what we can emulate, see if there's some similarities in our district, but it'll take time. And I think one of you said too, we wouldn't be generating revenue next year, maybe start the following year, but to get to the net positive, like we would have to develop the model to know when that would happen. So that wouldn't change really the course of what we're doing right now, but it's more of a medium to longer term potential revenue source.
Right, and I think what they said with the one word is the idea that they started with like 140 students and they went up, now they're at 1,000. Now that they're like 5 years later, and so 5 years later, that's when they're doing that. Okay, so sorry, Isabel, did you have anything else you wanted? Okay, Michelle?
Two pretty short ones. The first is just related, a couple questions related to TK. I'm just curious where the 4 new classrooms are gonna be, or if that's not known, we'll know that later.
You had to put me on the spot. I don't wanna misquote. I don't have it off the top of my head. Brentwood.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, maybe Christina does.
Yeah, so there are 4 general education classrooms, so Cherry Chase,
Cherry Chase,
Fairwood.
Fairwood,
I feel like Jeremy's like
Bishop.
fact checking.
Yeah, Bishop.
Bishop. Did I say Fairwood already?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna give me there's a special education classroom going in at Lakewood. And I'm missing a site.
You just said 4.
Cumberland. It's
Cumberland.
4 plus.
Oh,
Cherry
4
Chase.
plus, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job, team.
And then this one's probably more for Mike, so just related to the TK funding stuff and, we're part of that test case and the claims coming before in May. I'm curious, I know there's 2 routes, so one, like that route, if it comes, I guess it's not necessarily money though, so if it comes back.
It is money.
No, it's not money necessarily, so I'm just curious if there's a potential stream for money that route, if so, when? And then also, I can't remember if it was at Ledge Brunch or somewhere else recently, there is in the pipeline there is a legislator who is putting out a bill that would fund TK. So I'm curious if that goes through, I know the funding wouldn't be for 25, 26 probably, but I'm just curious, both of those, if one of those gets a money stream, when would that money stream be?
So, yeah, those are really good questions. So the legislation, I don't know if that would be for next year necessarily, but possibly for the following year. The thing about TK funding is when the legislature decided to fund transitional kindergarten in the state, they ran the dollar generation protocol based on all the students in the state, and that was including ours, including community funded students. And then when they went to actually allocate the dollars, they excluded community funded. So our argument is that the money is there. Yes, there's some hope with the legislation. There are districts that are, in fact, it came up in our superintendent's meeting last week, that are saying we can't afford to offer transitional kindergarten, so we're just not, right? And then the idea is, if you do offer transitional kindergarten, what programming are you having to reduce? And like, we can see that really clearly right here. So there are some arguments for it. There's not a lot of sympathy for community funded districts at the state level, but that's a possibility. And yeah, if it came in next year, that'd be fantastic. My guess is that it would probably be the year after that. With regard to the mandate claim, we're one of the claimants, along with Hope School District in Santa Barbara County, on behalf of all the community funded districts in the state. That goes to the Commission on State Mandates, if you can believe that there is such a commission, like talk about bureaucracy. Who knew that existed? In May, their first decision is, if I can make it binary, and who knows if it'll be this simple, is either it is a mandate that the legislature has created or it is not. If they conclude that it is not, then we are not bound by it, whatever rules the CDE comes up with. If they say it is a mandate, then it would go back to the legislature to say like, hey, how are you gonna fund this mandate? So that's gonna take a little bit of time. The first hearing's in May. It might not happen until it resolved maybe in the fall at the earliest. They don't seem to be in a big hurry to resolve this. So there is a little bit of hope there, but I wouldn't bank on it. Yeah, my guess is that they're gonna say it's not a mandate, which means we have more flexibility.
But doesn't really help us support and keep.
Right. And that's the reality. The right thing to do is offer transitional kindergarten. That's the right thing to do. It's a good program.
Okay, that's all.
Vicky? Hello. Thank you, Arthur, for such a comprehensive presentation. I have a question about like the timing of the presentation and the information. Just because I have my like Sunday night, Monday morning designated as my packet review time, and I wasn't really able to go through this as thoroughly as I would want it to. And I do appreciate the very thorough presentation. So I was just wondering, what is the timeline around, like, I feel like budget especially is an area where I'm like, I need to sit with this a little longer, and I need some support around there. So where does this fit, this second interim report fit within the whole general cycle thing, and what can we be expecting moving forward?
Yeah, great question, and I do want to apologize about the presentation kind of going out later than it should have, but you can expect for it to go out when the report went out at 5 p.m., but the presentation I wasn't able to get it done in time. So yeah, that would be the expectation going forward, that it will be on time with some, no excuses. That is the expectation.
I think what her question is where does the second interim fit within the budget cycle?
Yeah.
Oh.
Approval and all.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Great question.
Well, I think the first one you answered too.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, yes.
But you like this one. Yeah.
So, basically, every year there's a 15-month cycle. Starts in June when we adopt a budget, and every 3 months we're checking in and doing something on that budget. So it's 15 months until the following, the 15th of September. And so there's, again, 5 check-ins. You adopt the budget. The next check-in will be when you have the actuals, which is 3 months later, September 15th. And then you come with first interim in December, which is third touch. The fourth touch would be second interim, which is where I'm way off.
I think you're right, yeah.
Okay.
You're right on.
Second interim, no, I'm off. I've skipped
No,
something.
this is right, you got it.
I think the actuals are from the previous budget.
Yeah, but you now have the real beginning balances for
I see
the
what you're
current year.
saying.
Because the actuals give you
Yes.
the actual that are updated,
Yeah.
So maybe it's 6. I'm way off. Anyway, so every quarter, every 3 months, you get something new, and we're around in the middle. You'll have during the adopted budget, we'll also have the estimated actuals, but we'll have 10 months of actuals at that point in time. And then the last one will be in September with the unaudited actions. That's a great question.
Okay.
But we're basically in the middle of the process.
Okay. I have another question, comment. So I was looking at slides 16, 17, and those are about the cost reduction process and the planned reductions. And I was just wondering, where is our place as a board, where is our contribution, or where is our opportunity to contribute to this, to the why of it, not like the how or what, but like specifically
Maybe a little
like.
bit of the what, the why.
Well, I mean, like, I just was wondering what cuts are made and where should we have some input to that? Like, because that is.
I'm gonna be more direct.
Please, yes.
Other boards have been checking in all year on this, and this is our first conversation. I went back and I looked at the first interim, and there's nothing about the process, nothing about cost savings. So the whole slide 16 about process, it's not involving the board at all, and we're expected to approve it. And I appreciate that Mike's given us some updates, but it is a crazy, fast-paced year, but I really feel that, like, it's kind of shocking when people say, like, and we haven't, part of it is we have not had this problem before, right? Like things have been looking pretty good. Like there's been a white helicopter dumping a bunch of money on us every year, like, surprise, the numbers are way better than we thought, and we got this extra money. And like any reductions we've had to do, we just kind of look at Jeremy and go, like, Jeremy, it's coming through attrition, like natural attrition, and Jeremy be like, yep, we got you. So there hasn't been that, other than like some of the one-time money running out. In general, like, we have not faced this before. So if it's true, if like our fears are true, that like next year we're like, buckle up, we're gonna get more, there's gonna be an opportunity to cut more things. We as a board should be in that process, like, because it's part of our job. It's like oversight, transparency, and just being a partner with the district. And so it's not a command and control situation, but I think we're gonna need, and it's not to politicize anything, or like, not really looking forward to people yelling at me, about it, and like demanding things and crying or whatever's gonna happen in here, potentially, but at the same time, it's part of our job. And the fact that we don't know how to do it, quite seamlessly yet, like, is not surprising, because it hasn't been our situation. But if we look around, we can see our neighboring districts who've been through it. Some of them have handled it well. Some of them are really struggling with the community, or with their bargaining units or whatever. But we have to have a discussion in the open, and we have to be. I really think that, like, slide 16 tells me we need to be more engaged in the process. So I would ask that of the district, that we have the ability to have more of this conversation earlier. So we're not just like approving something we don't really know that much about until like way later until there's very difficult to make any change.
I appreciate that, and it's noted, and I appreciate putting in the perspective of we haven't really done this before. And so I can tell you that, like, that's exactly the conversation we're already having for the subsequent 2 years, not next year, but the subsequent 2 years. So we're already beginning that. So we're talking about reductions between, we don't have all the assumptions, so it's a broader range, between 3 and 6 million over the subsequent 2 years. And so, yeah, that conversation starts now. And so we'll commit to, engaging in that process, and using, where staff can, our expertise to identify the least impactful adjustments, and then the ones that, and working with you on that too, to identify like which are like some of the ones that Arthur identified are just reductions that we're just noticing over time, like they're relatively easy. And some of them are more like, hey, this is kind of a policy level decision, like, are we gonna emphasize this or de-emphasize this area or that area? So I think your point's well taken.
Yeah,
Please.
I was just gonna say, no, I mean, at least the way I approach the work is, we're all partners in this, like everyone in the system. And so, I welcome like the engagement that you wanna have. I just think there's certain things that, it would be hard to manage in an open board meeting. Some things are like not ready for an open discussion, similar to why negotiations happens like in closed session. And so, as we spend like months and months of like filtering things down to a point that would even be appropriate to bring to you, like here's a vetted idea. I would think that kind of the conversations that you guys have in your weekly communications with Dr. Gallagher, that would be like the starting point. And then if there's like major direction or concerns about the process, about anything, I think that would be a avenue for us to get that feedback.
We're gonna have to talk about that more, about the process. Maybe that would be a discussion item for us to talk about a process or like,
Yeah, I think
you know, later.
I think that's good, and I think thinking about the timeline too. So there's probably a whole bunch of districts, what's today, March 13th? Yeah, talking about layoffs and doing reductions in force. We're not doing that, and so that's why that drives their decisions now. The reductions that we've identified are reflected in the second interim. Really, we haven't adopted the budget yet, right? So the budget adoption happens in June. So we can talk about that because the reality is it's not final, but like it's getting late in the year, but like what's the right timeline? And so we feel like we're starting well now for 2 years from now, like that's pretty early. But like when to bring it to the board, when to bring it public. Maybe there's a subcommittee of the board that works on something. Anyway, those are all good ideas.
So I really want to be partners with the district, and I feel like that I have, just as part of my community, a pretty good lens on or like a pulse on the community and on teachers. And when we're looking at cuts, like for example, for like the TOSAs, the direct student service TOSAs, and thinking about it at my school site, but knowing that they're cut across all the school sites, I knew the impact would be huge, especially at my school site. And I feel like that is an area where if we're talking about our strategic plan, if we're talking about, acting with equity in mind, those are some considerations. So instead of maybe cutting across all campuses, certain services, like considering where are the needs the most in order to meet the students where it's needed. And those are, I think, kind of just bigger, just conversations that I'd like to be able to have, and for that to be considered as decisions are being made. As opposed to like this is what we've decided on in this many phase discussion.
Everyone gives up one.
Yeah, I think that's part of going through all my board training stuff lately, I'm like, oh, this is part of what we're supposed to be doing is, the oversight, transparency about decisions that are coming through the board. And I do feel like that is why I'm here, I feel like that's why I want to be here, and I do feel very strongly that we have such like a great foundation, and together we can, but there does require us to have those conversations and that amount of trust as well.
So if I can just like reiterate from my notes, so I can send my report. So just for the we're gonna talk about a process for integrating. Our thing would be to talk about a process for including the board in a conversation, like what that would be like. That would be something that we will talk about, or that we want the district to come back to with us. And then the second thing would be to look at revenue generation And we're all crossing our fingers up here, I think, that it would involve a sliding scale daycare, but other revenue generations. Is that correct? Is that the we
Yeah.
heard?
And
Is everyone
maybe
comfortable with
we can
that?
start with something that is self-sustaining, that we don't have to put money, but promise that in 2 or 3 years it's gonna give us money. I mean, definitely, we cannot just be spending money in something that.
So, and maybe it's a subcommittee or maybe it's a team effort. Is everyone comfortable with that?
I have a quick question. So the first one, I made a note, so maybe it's the same thing as what you're saying. Of the idea of like, we make a note to talk about at a future governance meeting, how we, the board, want to be involved in the budget and what's the best process, what's the best process for that? But having that discussion, not just us as the board, like with board and staff input, because I don't even think all the board members actually probably fully agree on how we want to be involved. But anyway, so I just.
Yeah, well, we don't know what the timeline is.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we
But I
need to
think,
know.
so I think at a governance meeting would probably be the best place to have a discussion of like how we want to be involved, right? And how best we can be involved. Is that what you're saying too?
Well, I would like to have the discussion this year, before June, before Mike leaves. I would like to have it before July.
It seems like it'd actually be better with the new superintendent, since the new superintendent one will be involved with.
No, well, I would like to get Mike's input on it with his.
Yeah, I mean, we can start,
We start talking about it,
we
not
can
that it's
start.
for finishing it, I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
think
we can
anything's
start,
already
I just need to make
finalized.
that decision with the new
To
superintendent.
me, the first step is the time.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we got that. All right, so, we're ready to vote?
Yes.
Do we have enough information to vote? Okay, great. All those in favor of approving the, whatever this is, second interim budget report, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it passes, yay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Because it's only 10 minutes, probably we'll make it, but we won't have time to discuss and engage. Should we table our last item for next meeting?
And do you want to continue the Hoffman Award discussion at the governance meeting?
Oh, that'd be good.
That'd be a good place for
That
it.
would be a good
Yeah.
place for it. Okay.
Okay, so, we'll table, so,
Do
you have
I need
have-
to make the motion since I did the original, or can anyone make the motion?
Anybody can
Well, I'm talking.
to table 13.
I make a motion to table item 13, is that what you said?
13A.
Item 13A for a future meeting.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That's really good, motion passes. Okay, last item, future meetings and adjournment. Our next meeting will be Thursday, March 27th, 2025. On the agenda online, it says 5 p.m., but I believe we moved it to 6 p.m., correct? We're meeting at 6 p.m., right? On Thursday, March 27th at 6 p.m. Governance development meeting.
Jesus has a question.
Yes, sir.
When we approve the 24-25 board meeting calendar and all the edits, it said 5 to 8 for the 27th and 9 to 12 for the 27th, the 28th.
Yes,
So
but I believe when trustee Perfetta joined us, she informed us that she could not make it at 5 o'clock. And so at that meeting, I thought that we noted we wanted to move it to 6.
We decided that we were gonna
And
do
it-
it.
correct,
to
I'm just
accommodate-
saying it's advertised that it's 5 to 8, so that's all.
Right, I think we'll have to just advertise differently for this one. Right, we'll just have to make that change and then we're gonna have to.
We can make that change, just as a note.
Yeah.
It's scheduled as a regular board meeting. What regular board meetings are is predictable times and dates for the public.
Which 6 o'clock would actually be that, not 5 anyway.
Well,
It says governance,
yes.
it says governance.
Yes, but it's published on the calendar. So you're right, like ideally it should be 6 because it's always 6 on Thursday, but we made it 5. And so that's always the challenge of changing back and forth. Like it needs to be predictable for the public. But with all that said, we can make it 6 o'clock.
Is it still listed as a regular board meeting?
Governance.
It's really, yeah, so it's a governance meeting, so okay.
I make
I get it.
that we can talk about that later.
Yeah, let's talk about it at the governance meeting. All right, so again, the next meeting will be Thursday, March 27th at 6 p.m. Governance board meeting here at the district office. The time is 9:51 and the meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Angela. Have a good night.